Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation today on Mastey Hair Color, the no ammonia, no PPD, no gluten, and vegan hair color. We believe that Mastey is the best choice for green-focused, environment-friendly organic hair salons and stylists around the world. And this presentation today is the Salon Certification Program, the first course in a 5-part series that will get you to be salon certified with Mastey Hair Color. Today's program is going to focus on an introduction to our course. We'll walk through what the different parts of the courses are, as well as the introduction to healthier hair color. As you progress through courses 2 through 5 and into the final project, you'll see that we'll cover a lot of different things, and we have all new presentations for all of these great sections. So again, as we go through, please feel free to use the chat window on the left-hand side to ask a question. And again, all of this material will be made available to you at the end of the presentation as well. We have a lot of room to cover today, so let's go ahead and get started. When it comes to the certification course, what we'll be going through for your program will be this. Your attendance at these presentations is needed. However, you can make special arrangements if you cannot make it to one of the courses that are coming up to view an online video recording of the course. You can also use this recording as review, as well as you'll be able to review things from the MasteyHairColor.com site. Shortly after the conclusion of these presentations, you're also going to receive a link to an online quiz. You'll have to take this online test as well as complete small projects throughout the way in order to progress on to the next level. When it comes to any of the projects where you'll be working on a model or anything like that, Mastey will provide you with the color and the styling products needed to complete those hands-on projects. So we will make sure that in the emails that we send you with project instructions and quiz links, that you know how to get the products that you need in order to complete them. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in on the left. Throughout this course, we're going to be touching on 3 key features: knowledge, professionalism, and integrity. And as you go out there and present yourself as a certified Mastey colorist, we need to make sure that you keep all of these things true to how not only you present yourself, but how you present your business and your work. So the first place we're going to start is knowledge in our market. One of the most important things we need to know is what the market around us is looking for and what they're asking for. And right now, what are potential clients and customers looking for when it comes to salons and products out there to use? Some of the big keywords that come up are organic, green, eco-friendly. A lot of buzzwords that salons can get a little tied up in, or consumers can be really focused on. But there are problems with some of these buzzwords. And when it comes to hair color, there's a big problem with them. And the big problem is with the term known as organic hair color. And what we're going to do is we're going to take just a few minutes and we're going to walk through a few things so that the reality behind things like organic hair color or certified organic products and how those work, so that when your customers ask you questions about it, you know how to answer them. Again, you want to make sure that you present yourself in a professional manner where you know how to answer these questions because in that relationship with your customer and your client, you are the professional. Now, in the United States, we actually have a great system for designating organic products. And it's interesting because in our field, though, in the salon field and in the manufacturing of salon products field, a lot of people don't pay attention to this, and it causes confusion because consumers are paying attention to this. Now, on this slide here, you see two little symbols, two little circle symbols on the right-hand side. Those are the only two certifications in the United States that prove that your product is organic. So no matter what you have on your product, no matter what country your product is made from, in order to be certified organic in the United States, you have to be certified by one of these two agencies. And the certification process for it is very, very simple. The minimum amount of organic ingredients that you can have in a product to say that it contains organic ingredients or that it's made with organic ingredients is going to be 70%. So if you have less than 70% organic ingredients, you can't even put that legally on the front of your bottle. If you want to use the term organic, you have to have at least 90% of your ingredients be organic. So if someone is saying that their product is organic, it needs to be at least 90% organic. And then at the top tier, there are certain items that you can make with 100% organic ingredients, and then you can put that on the label. In reality, the problem that happens is as salons and as product manufacturers, you look at the term organic as a buzzword and you understand it to mean certain things, but then when you put it against what organic really means, there's certain things that come up. So if we look at that standard, is there really any hair color, professional or otherwise, on the market that can meet this standard? And we're going to try and keep this a little interactive. So if you think so, if you think yes or no, go ahead and type it into the chat. I think the answer will surprise a lot of stylists, especially those that have quote unquote organic or green salons. The answer is no. There is no product line available in the professional market that can meet those standards. So people ask, well, I have a product that says it's organic or that it's certifiably organic, and you have to ask this question, right? When you look at the ingredients for the color, let's say, if there's 31 ingredients in a color and 5 of those ingredients are certified organic extracts, does that really make that hair color organic? And the answer is no. But what if they even put the name organic in the name of the company or the name organic in the name of the product? Is that hair color organic? No, because it doesn't meet these simple standards. And, so you have to ask yourself, okay, well, if I want to have a truly organic option, right, what can I do? Is there any organic alternatives that I can use to color hair that I can truly, see that it is certified organic? And there are a few alternatives that you can use. Again, you would have to make sure that when you purchase these products that they had one of these two symbols to prove that they are actually organic. And each one of them, though, represents a little bit of a problem. We're all familiar with henna and how not only that the results come out, but also the texture of the hair after using it for a while. You're going to get very orange results, very warm results. You can use indigo, but a lot of times that comes out too purple, too muddy. There are ways to use organic coffees and teas, but the tones are very limiting and it's very, very unpredictable to use these products. But you can find those and you can learn to do hair color with these and provide a truly organic option. Now, these solutions, though, cause a few problems for us in the professional salon environment. Okay, as we know, all of our clients, they come in and they either look at a color book or they come in with a picture or they have an idea of exactly what color they want. Uh, at the same time, when you're using products that are unpredictable, and you have that probably currently in some of the products that you've used in the past. It's been unpredictable from one shade to another. Now imagine trying to dye someone's hair to match a picture that they brought in, and you're using teas and coffees that you know are going to be unpredictable and you're not going to be able to match it. It's just not, it's not the best solution for the professional salon environment. You're going to be limited to tonal values. You're going to have uncontrollable results. Um, some of these situations, like when using indigo, are going to be very, very dark, or you're going to be very off tone with henna. And over time, these products are going to coat the hair shaft and give it more of a plastic texture. So how did we learn so much about these things? It was kind of interesting. We learn a lot from the stylists that are out there that end up using our products. Uh, Luckily, we've always tried to make a product that's a little bit gentler, a little bit healthier, one that still works, but that takes into account the fact that you're doing these procedures, you know, 10, 20, 30 times a week, and being exposed to a lot of these chemicals. So from the beginning, we've tried making products that are a lot gentler, with the creation of sulfate-free shampoo back in 1978, and actually the introduction of no ammonia hair color back in 1982. Um, and over time, we've met a lot of great stylists, and a lot of them have turned into educators. And we're going to profile a few of them today as we walk through. First one I want to talk to you about is Madeline, and she's a salon owner and a Mastey educator out in Sweden. And out in Sweden, there is and has been for a while a big push on more natural, more organic, more healthier alternatives. Um, Madeline was a stylist for over 25 years and had used a number of different hair color brands. And over time, she had developed severe allergies to doing hair color. So, you know, at first, she was able to use gloves, and that kind of got her to not get the rashes that she was getting from beforehand. You know, after that, it became an issue of, you know, just inhaling and being around the color products that she was using was causing her not to feel well. And so her doctor let her know that she shouldn't be using any of these products anymore. Well, that's very difficult for a hairdresser to, you know, make most of their money off of being a colorist. You know, color is probably one of your highest priced services. To be told that you can't provide that service anymore is a huge, huge problem. So she researched and did a lot of trial and error and was using teas and coffees for a few years. And over and over again, she had these same problems where it was hard to give her clients what they wanted. Now, thankfully, her clients were also the types of clients that were looking for a stylist like that, either for health issues or for allergy issues or just for a better lifestyle, right? In 2011, she found Mastey Hair Color, and we started walking through with her, you know, what her issues were, what the ingredients were that she was allergic to, and trying to see if she could use the Mastey Hair Color. And it was a big hit for her. Now she can do all the color that she needs to do. She has the availability of 100 different shades that she can mix and match to make an unlimited amount of creation. And it has really taken her back to the joy that she had those first 25 years of being a stylist, of not being held down to having to use something that's not going to work. Um, so when we look at using terms like organic, organic systems, certifiably organic, I mean, we've heard them all. Later in the presentation, I'll tell you about uh, an interaction that I had this weekend at the ISSE show in Los Angeles, because that's going on right now. And it's very, very interesting how, as even product manufacturers, a lot of product manufacturers either don't know or don't understand what they're saying. And we feel that referencing hair color with terms like organic, organic systems, and certifiably organic, when there's no way that they're organic, when you know that they're not organic, is not only confusing, but also deceptive to both the stylists and the consumers that are out there. And it actually makes your job a lot harder. Because at the end of the day, that person is sitting in your chair and they're asking you the question and wanting you to provide a certain service for them. And you're promising them a certain result with a certain level and quality of product. So we view organic as just a buzzword that, in the salon industry. But we have to understand that the real world, organic is a real word. And for some customers, if they say to you, I want an organic this or an organic that, they know what they're talking about and that's what they want. And when it comes to those people, you have to explain this to them so that they're not caught off guard too. Because the last thing you want is to tell someone, oh yeah, my hair color is 100% organic. And then they find out that it's not, and they know more than you about the product that you're using. That speaks to the level of your professionalism. So, when it comes to most customers though, what are they really looking for? They're looking for a product and for services that's going to make their hair look and feel healthier, right? They're looking for gentler ingredients, so ingredients that they're not going to have allergic reactions to, ingredients that aren't going to make them feel uncomfortable, and they're looking for beautiful results. And that's why they come to you, right? You are the professional and you're there to give them these things that they're looking for. And for that, they're willing to pay a price for. And so when we talk to stylists, a lot of times, they use these same buzzwords. They say organic, natural, this and that, or what have you. But what do they really want? Because when you ask them what they want, they sound very much like their clients. They want the hair to look healthier. They want it to look shinier. They don't want it to look manufactured. They want gentler ingredients. And they want gentler ingredients for a number of different reasons. One, for how it's going to help their clients feel, but also for the amount of exposure and how it's going to help them feel, right? They're looking for better results as well. And the most important thing, they need it to work. A lot of times when we talk about alternative products, yeah, it's great. It's fine and dandy that we want to have, this new product in the salon. But if it doesn't work, then that means I have to fix it when it doesn't work. And that means I'm spending more money on other products to fix it. And I'm spending more of my time, more of the salon owner's money, in order to do something that I could have just done right the first time if I had all of the information. And that's where knowledge comes into play. I was listening to a webinar with Beth Minardi the other day, and it was about how, sometimes stylists don't want to know all the details. They just want to be creative. But she made a very, very interesting point. Without knowing all the details, you can't be as creative as you possibly could, because the more you know, the more you have access to do more things. And so that's very, very important. One of the other educators that I wanted to focus on today, and if you guys go to the Mastey Facebook page, all of these people that we're talking about here are friends or have liked the page there. You can check out their salons. You can meet them. We really like when stylists meet each other through either Facebook or LinkedIn, because it gives you the opportunity not just to get this kind of information from someone like me sitting here in Los Angeles in 70-degree weather, but you can also talk to someone who's in the salon every day using the product, has had their own journey, and it has helped them become who they are and what they're able to do. Ginny is one of our educators here in the U.S. Out on the East Coast. She's also a salon owner and a really, really great person. She's got over 25 years of experience using a couple of other brands. And, to this day, she still loves those brands. And that's great. And that's awesome. She's had a great experience and a great career with those. And we think that's amazing, you know. For her, over that same period of time, she developed some allergies, and because of the environment that we work in, right? We're exposed to a lot of these things. And so she developed some allergies to a couple of, or a few specific chemicals um, that were in the colors, in most hair colors, and in most bleaches. And through her journey with her physician as well, she was told she couldn't do any color anymore. Um, and that's a big, big deal. Um, and luckily we were able to meet. We talked about, her situation as well, and she started using the hair color, and her level of professionalism uh is above par. Because I'll tell you how it went for her. And you'll see something that her and her salon came up with for us later in the presentation that I think has been a lifesaver for a bunch of people. But she was on a journey with us. So for a year before the the color was fully entrenched in the salon, for an entire year, we went back and forth, you know, helping her and learning from her how to transfer formulas over, what procedures work best, uh, and how from another color line and how to make those happen for us. And she was able to train her people, and two of them, Ginny and another stylist from out there, came out to California and were registered and certified as educators for us this past year, um, and brought a lot of knowledge and experience to the whole Mastey education environment as well. You know, you have to be knowledgeable, and this is one of the things. And a lot of our educators, uh, they still are out there getting themselves educated on what's going on in the industry, what products are coming out, and how those compare, as well as how they work with our products. There's a lot of things that come out, and our industry, thankfully, is always moving forward. A lot of it, yes, is moving forward with marketing hype, but there are real breakthroughs that happen, and sometimes they don't come from the big guys, right? Most of the time, they don't come from the big guys, because the big guys have a lot to lose if they have to change something. Little companies come up and they have a great idea, and they put that great idea out there, and stylists take it. And you have to be the stylist that's willing to go out there and grab that knowledge. And you have to have the knowledge, whatever product you pick, whether it's Mastey, whether it's something else, you have to have the knowledge in that product to be able to answer questions to your customers and to be able to make sure that you're giving your customer exactly what it is that they want and that they need. Our color mission here, and it's been this way before we even had color, right? When we just made shampoo, um, our mission has been to make professional hair products using the gentlest available ingredients so that it's good for the health of the stylist and the client while we still produce a professional result. And, this mission is very core to how we do everything. Even our education programs. As you go through this education program, if you've been through other manufacturers' education, when you compare it to ours, I hope that you see how much detail and how much professionalism we try and put in this, and how we want to share as much information with you so that you can go out and do great, great things with it. One of the things that you should think about, and we'll touch on this at the end today as well, is what's your mission in what you're doing, and why is it important for you to use products like this and to be certified and to go out there and help people? Why is that for you? Okay? So when it comes to hair color, and in particular Mastey Hair Color, what's really exciting is the fact that it's no ammonia is very, very important. And we'll talk about how having no ammonia in the color helps to make sure that the hair outcome is healthier. And we'll go through that. Having no PPDs in the color. What does that mean? Why is that important? The fact that there's no gluten, that we use something else besides wheat protein. Buzzwords like vegan and antioxidant rich, and the fact that the color will go ahead and moisturize and repair the hair while it's coloring. And these are all important things, and we're going to learn why, how, and why it's important to your customers. One of the things that you want to remember is that Mastey has made no ammonia hair color since 1982, and it's sold around the world. We may not be the biggest marketing company out there with magazine ads in every issue of Modern Salon and Launchpad and The Colorist, but we are the manufacturer that has been making this alternative, professional hair color for the longest, and we're the ones that continue to try and keep ourselves ahead, and I'll show you how in a second. Now, first, let's talk about what we use instead of ammonia and what that does. Okay, so every hair color needs to have an alkaline agent. Okay, what that means is something that's going to help to open the cuticle. That's all that is. And for years, since hair color was made, people have used ammonia. The problem that has arisen is that over time, people have realized that ammonia really damages the hair. So back in 1982, we started experimenting with using aminomethylpropanol and monoethanolamine in hair color as an alternative to ammonia. And what we've learned over these last over 30 years of making hair color is that not only does it minimize the damage compared to ammonia, but because we're not blowing the cuticle out the same, over time, it minimizes not only the damage, but it actually makes the hair color or the hair look healthier than it was before it was colored. Some of the advances that we've made with the color production have been that now we suspend that MEA or that AMP molecule in a soy-based solution. And what that does is it encapsulates or traps any fumes or any odors that are in the hair color. So for you, it means that you're not having to take any of that stuff in. I'm pretty sensitive to not only fragrances but chemicals and things like that. And as I said, we were at the IFSC show this weekend, and everybody's doing either color or permanent straightenings, and you've got smoke flying everywhere. And and just walking around in that space, even though it's a huge space, I could feel how I was feeling because of the fumes, the odor, and the smoke. Thankfully, with the way that we make our color, you don't have to worry about that. This also gives you a healthier color with longer lasting results. So let's talk about the differences between between using ammonia and using MEA and AMP. And this is a very, very simple um, diagram that you could take a look at. Okay, so the ammonia color process over time damages the hair cuticle. Um, you know, in order to use the ammonia, uh, it's going to open up that hair cuticle really, really wide. And what you'll start to notice as stylists is you will see um, the cuticles will start to be very, very difficult to close down. You'll get a lot of people that have done color for a long time, their hair will knot up. It's almost like Velcro. It knots up together and it's very, very difficult to work with that hair to get it to hold color over time. And that a lot has to do with the ammonia damage in the hair. So in order to use ammonia, if it's going to have trouble holding because those cuticles can't close down, then guess what you have to do? You have to use very aggressive dyes. You have to use combinations of dyes, which would be, um, uh, direct dyes as well as oxidative dyes. But the problem with those, as we'll learn later, is that they get darker over time and they stain. When you look at the other side, when you look at the Mastey color process, you're looking at less damage. Um, you're looking at an the MEA and the AMP not opening the hair as much as the ammonia. So that means that when we wash it out, it's a lot easier for it to close down, for it to have a more compact cuticle. And we're using all oxidative dyes. We'll talk about those dyes in a second. But what you really want to take away from that is that having all those oxidative dyes makes it so that the color will all be on tone and it'll even fade on tone. Now, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in on the left-hand side of your window. There is a chat window, um, and so you can go ahead and put your questions in there. Now, when we look at the past, present, and future of color, right? What you'll see is that for a very, very long time, ammonia was used to make hair color. And a lot of companies are still using ammonia today. At the same time, some companies have started to use MEA. So the big deal was before, there wasn't that many no ammonia alternatives, right? There was us, there was Chi, Chi's had a no ammonia color since the early 1980s as well, but I think probably 83 or 84. And for a long time, everybody else was using ammonia, and there was just a few of us using MEA. Slowly and thankfully, we have changed over a lot of minds, and a lot of these companies have now started producing no ammonia alternatives to their hair colors. So they still sell an ammonia-based brand, but they also sell a no ammonia-based brand. We think that's great. If everybody could learn to make hair color without ammonia, it's only a better place for everyone here, everyone on this call, all the customers that you have. And, thankfully, we believe that since we've been doing it for quite a long time, we're a little bit of ahead. One of the really cool things that happened last year is when Schwarzkopf came out with their no ammonia line. It was MEA based, and then shortly after that, they started having some colors that also had aminomethylpropanol. So it put them in the box with us. Moving forward, that's great. We think that's the way that things should be. We should all be moving forward together to give you guys the best available product. So what's going to make us stand out then? Not only is it the no ammonia, again, we've been doing it for over 30 years, so we've learned a lot about how to make no ammonia hair color work. And, the damage from ammonia is one thing, And then the types of dyes that you use are the second part of it. Okay. Now remember, since we're not blasting open that cuticle, we need to use other things in order to get the hair color to look beautiful and have everything working properly. So what we do is we use all oxidative dyes. So 100% of our dyes are all oxidative. If you go to masteyhaircolor.com, there is a page specifically about the Mastey ingredients. The top section is going to tell you everything we use as far as the conditioners, the soy-based solution, everything, and where it's derived from. And then the second part of the ingredients list will list not only the alkalines we use, so amino methylpropanol and monoethanolamine, but also every single hair dye that we use. Now, the way this works is, let's say your level 4 chocolate, so 4.34, that shade is going to have a certain combination of those dyes. A level 7.3 is going to have a different combination. Level 7 gold is going to have a different combination of dyes in that than in that 4.34. And every single shade is customized and different, and you'll see how we do that in a second. But one of the things we want to remember is that regardless of where you're at, whether you're in the shades that are very light or very dark, all of the dyes in there are all oxidative, so they all need to work with hydrogen peroxide. Okay, none of them are stain dyes. The great thing about that is that they're not going to build up. They're not going to fade off tone. Another great thing about the oxidative dyes that we use is that they're all no PPD dyes. So what that means is that your allergy level or your allergy rate is going to go way down because of all the dyes out there. PPD is the one with the highest allergen rate. You'll see in a couple of slides coming up, the alternatives that we use and why it's better and who says it's better. And here's that slide. Now, the European Union does a lot of studies on hair color. And as I said, we're sold all around the world. We do sell all over the European Union. And we actually were just there a few months back, right in September, October timeframe of last year, promoting and doing education seminars on the hair color. And we have a big following out there. So if you go online and you see a lot of comments on Facebook and things, it's in different European languages as well. It's kind of cool to see. But the ingredient that Mastey uses is an ingredient called toluene 2,5-diamine sulfate. That's what we use as an alternative to PPD in our hair color. And based on European Union studies, PPD is 2 to 5 times more allergen, more dangerous, worse than our alternative. And the link that's available down at the bottom is a link to a few of the different research papers that were done on that. And those research papers date back from, I think the 70s to present day. So this isn't a new ingredient or something that nobody knows about. It's just in order to use the types of ingredients that we use, you have to do things a little bit differently. And hopefully you'll see how we do that. So again, this link will be available to you guys. You can also go to masteyhaircolor.com, and there's a whole section there that talks about zero PPD, and it will give you this link plus a few more, some US-based studies, as well as you can look up scores for these two different ingredients as well. Now, when you look at the dye systems that we use, like most other color companies, even the ones that use no ammonia, will use a mixed dye system. So they will use a combination of oxidative dyes and direct dyes. Okay, there are some benefits of doing that, and there are definitely some drawbacks to doing it. When you use a mixed dye system, the main reason you do that is for coverage. Okay, because the oxidative dyes, as we know, when the ammonia or the MEA opens up the hair shaft, those oxidative dyes are going to go in, they're going to react with the hydrogen peroxide, they're going to grow, they're going to color the hair. Now, if that hair is very difficult to cover, let's say it's very difficult to cover gray, really compact cuticle, or if it's hair that has been really bleached out in the past and it doesn't hold color, right? Color companies have a backup, and it's a stain dye or a direct dye. And those dyes are in with the color, and they coat the surface of the hair to help with the coverage. So your gray coverage may be a little bit easier when you're using one of these systems. Um, and not necessarily easier, but just doing it differently, right? Uh, and but the problems that you're going to run into is that over time, like you can see on this picture, right? This hair started out red, but as time has gone by, those stains are wearing off and they go orange. But the oxidative dyes on the inside are still the same color. They're still red. So what you start to get is a hair color result that starts to fade off tone. When you look at the Mastey side, the Mastey dye system is all oxidative. So all the color is going on the inside. Um, so all the color has to react with hydrogen peroxide in order for it to work. Now, the benefit to that is that when it fades, it's not going to fade off tone. Your red, once it fades, it's going to fade a red. Now, um, you know, fadage in color is a really important thing. And our colors last very, very long. And you'll see why in a couple of slides when we talk about our antioxidants. But no matter what hair color, depending on the environment, depending on what your client does, depending on their water situation at home, all hair color fades over time. That's just what it does. Our bodies age, our hair color fades. And so what you want to do is, one, you want to try and make it so that uh, it will last as long as it possibly can, and it stays as vibrant, as healthy, as shiny as you could ever keep it. So again, when you look at the landscape out there right now, we are the only no PPD, no ammonia hair color that's out there, and there are a lot of colors both in the ammonia and the non-ammonia that still use the PPD dyes. So not having PPD in here is one of the things that you can definitely talk to your clients about, promote for your salon, and it's something else that puts you in a different category than, let's say, the salon down the block or across the street. Gluten's a big deal, uh, to a lot of people. I used to think it was only when you ate gluten that it was an issue, but for some people, it's reactions on their skin or on their scalp. And one of the things that we've used forever, for as long as I've been here anyway, has been rice amino acids instead of hydrolyzed wheat protein or anything like that. And the benefits to rice amino acids are many. Again, it's a smaller molecule, so a smaller molecular size than the wheat protein, so it's easier for it to get in there. It has more of the vital nutrients that are needed to help rebuild the hair. You know, it is one of the main ingredients in all of our conditioning products, and we see, and if you've had the opportunity to try them, you'll see that there is a big, big difference in using one of our conditioners with the rice amino acids. But then again, when it comes to those quote unquote buzzwords, someone is going to ask you, is this product gluten free? And you need to be able to say, yes, it is gluten free. And when they ask you, what do they use instead, then you can very easily answer rice and why we use rice. Now, for moisture, one of the things that, there's been a lot of studies done on like damaged hair and how to rebuild it and all that, and what kind of proteins to use and all that. But one of the things that has come out of all that research is that when you're trying to make hair healthier, right, the more moisturized the hair is, the better the repairing products that you use will take to that hair. So, for example, if you used all the protein that you wanted to on someone's very damaged hair to try and rebuild it, and you used a moisturizer and that same protein on someone else with the same kind of hair, the person who had the moisture and the protein, their hair is going to get healthier faster and it's going to look a lot better. Um, we've always made a natural moisturizing factor that has been vegan or vegetable derived, right? And basically the way that it works is in your skin, your body naturally makes moisture. Um, and it brings it up to the skin to moisturize the skin. A long time ago, Mastey figured out how to mimic those that natural process using vegetable extracts or ingredients derived from vegetables so that it mimics the natural moisture that would come from your body. And we use that moisture in the hair. So by using that moisture in the hair color and in the repairing product, it makes it so that you can repair and moisturize the hair all at one time. Now, once we've repaired the hair, once we've colored the hair, we want to make sure that not only does the hair color last as long as it possibly can, but that it's also as healthy as it possibly can be, so that it's strong, so that it's shiny, so that it's vibrant, so that it feels as close as it can to virgin hair, right? So we use a combination of vitamins and antioxidants, grapeseed extract, uh, you know, vitamin B5 to promote longer lasting color and prevent fadage. And as I said, this helps keep your hair and your hair nourished. We use all of these ingredients as well in our shampoos and conditioners. And so what that does is it makes it so that you can use those shampoos and conditioners actually on your skin. So we recommend our shampoos as facial cleansers. Uh, if you shave, you can shave with our conditioners, and it will actually help moisturize your skin while you're shaving. Um, and that's a big deal. Like when you're talking to some of these customers that are interested in quote unquote organic, natural, healthier types of products, when you tell them that you can take this shampoo and wash your face with it, that's a big deal, right? And I recommend that all of you do that. I'll send all of you guys a sample of the shampoo so that you can try that. Wash your face with it and see how it feels. So let's recap and then we'll move on to how to use the color the proper way. All right, we're using a gentler alkaline agent instead of ammonia, and that minimizes the hair damage. Not having the PBDs and the direct dyes makes it so that it's not only not irritating, but it's not going to build up. Um, you know, using rice amino acids along with the vegan natural moisturizing factor helps to moisturize and repair the hair, and the vitamins and the antioxidants help to prolong the life and the vibrancy of the color. Um, our goal is to make hair look like virgin hair. And virgin hair is not matte, it's not translucent, it's very, very reflective, right? When you look at the number of pigment that is actually in like a natural hair shaft, right? Not a lot of pigment. It the pigment that is in there though is reflected like a mirror to make it look that nice, beautiful color that it is. So when someone with virgin hair stands in the sunlight and they move their hair around, you can see all the different tonal values that are in there. And that's what we're trying to do as well when using the Mastey Hair Color. Now let's look at the language of hair color. All right, one of the first things we have to do, and that you have to be really really good at, especially if you're going to be, a certified hair colorist in one of these in a hair color line, is you have to understand what language they're talking and how to translate that language from, let's say, another hair color line that you were using. So learning your levels and tones is going to be the number one thing to do And if you can do that, and it's very, very simple, and there's keys everywhere for how to do it, it's gonna let you formulate any formula for any problem that you come up with. And again, a lot of it really has to do with just doing the work that you need to do. We'll go through these slides real quick because you can look in your color books, you can look online, and you can see these things as well. Our hair levels, just like any other color line, going from 1 through 11, right? One of the things you want to keep in mind, our levels match virgin hair color, okay? Remember, there's no dyes, there's no stain dyes, there's no stain dyes, there's no direct dyes. So there's not going to be anything that's going to make a level darker than normal. A lot of complaints that we hear from people using other color lines is that if they're pulling through or if they're using a demi-permanent on top to refresh a color, over time that color gets darker. So their level 7 looks more like a level 6, right? That's not going to happen with Mastey. Even if you pulled through every single time using the formulation. And we don't recommend that you do that because you'll see with the faded you don't need to. But even if you did, it's not going to build up and get darker. So remember, our levels match natural virgin hair. Our main tonal values. This is a cool base color, right? It's a violet based color. You want to remember that when you're formulating because depending on what you mix, you're going to make another color. So one of the things that sometimes trips people up is, and we talk about this in the gray coverage class, so we won't talk too much about it, but I'll just bring it up here because it's kind of interesting. When you have a client that has red hair, let's say, and they need gray coverage, so you're trying to color their hair red and they need gray coverage. Sometimes what stylists will do, not really thinking about it, they'll grab a double neutral because that's what we recommend for gray coverage, and they'll mix that with a 0.6, which is a red, because that's the tone and the color that they're looking for, right? So it could be, the formula could be very simple, like 1.5 ounces of a level 5.6 and 1/2 ounce of the 500. The problem that arises when that happens is that you're mixing now a cool neutral that's violet based with a red. So what you're going to get is more of a red purple, right? And if you stop, take a second, and you actually look at the colors and what the bases of those colors are, that totally makes sense. But if you're just in a rush and you want to do something like that, then you have to figure out what to do. The proper way to handle that situation is to use a 0.6 and a 0.3. And in certain situations, you may need to use a 0.00, a 0.6, and a 0.3 because you need the depth because the person has really hard to cover gray or whatnot, or because of the particular color that you're going after. But in that scenario, and you'll see this in one of the models we talk about later, you're putting everything back in. So you're going back and making a neutral brown, right? Our formulations class talks a lot about that, about making a brown, because no matter what, whether you're down in the low levels or in the blondes, all you're doing is trying to make neutrals, right? And then adding tones that you want to that. So when you formulate, that's how you have to think, right? Just because my client says she wants a 6.6 doesn't mean that I'm going to use 6.6 on her, right? I have to look and see where she's at, how I'm going to get her to that 6.6, and what I'm going to use to get her there. You guys will learn all that in a lot of the things that are coming up. Okay, so reading the color numbers, very simple. A single tone is going to be like 8.3, so that's an 8 gold. And something that has a multi-tone is going to be an 8.34. This is an 8 gold copper, or what we call an 8 chocolate. One of the things that you want to pay attention to, right, when you have a color that has a multi-tone, a lot of times people will ask, well, what percentage is that first number? What percentage is that second tone, right? So when you look down underneath here, and again, you'll have access to all these slides, and you'll have a lot of questions on the quiz that talk about this, right? This color is 2/3 of that formula is gold and 1/3 of that formula is copper. Okay, that's how we're making that 8.34. And remember, you want to keep these proportions in mind when you try and replicate some of these colors, because sometimes you may not have an 8.34 at the salon, and that's what you need to use for your customer. So you can make that color by using an 8.3 and an 8.4 and mixing them in the right proportion. Now, the color book is very simple and it gives you access to all of this. Across the top, you have not only all the tonal numbers, but you have all of their names and you have all of their base tones. So it'll tell you that a 0.2 is platinum, but it'll give you the base color of it being violet. Okay? It'll do the same thing with the 0.4 being copper and its base being orange. Okay? Along both sides, you also see our level system going across. Now, the colors that are out there, those are all the colors that we sell. All those little empty boxes you can make using the colors that are out there, and the amplifiers. You can make any single color that you can imagine. If there's any questions, please feel free to put them on the left side there. Now, one of the things that we make, and it's located on the bottom right-hand side of the color book, are these things called amplifiers, right? And you can have a lot of fun with amplifiers because there's a lot of things that you can do with them, but you have to understand what they are. And when we do our formulations class, you'll be doing a lot of figuring out of how to make pastels and how to do these different kinds of cool things, right? But you have to understand that in order to make them with an amplifier, you have to know what the amplifier is, okay? So an amplifier is going to be a color that has no base level. So in reality, if I take a piece of white hair and I put that blue color on top of it and let it process with developer, of course, I mix it with developer and I put it on the hair and I let it process, what's going to happen is it's not going to be that solid blue. It will be a see-through blue because all it is tone. Okay? So all these colors, the 07, the 37, the 44, the 64, 66, all of these colors, all they are is a tonal value with no base. Okay? In the color book, there is a remaining pigment contribution chart. And using this chart is a lifesaver because it will always tell you what amplifier you can add in order to either amplify an underlying pigment or to neutralize an underlying pigment. So if you're lifting into your level 4s and 5s and 6s, you're going to get a lot of red undertone, right? If you're trying to lift into that, you're going to get a lot of red undertone. So you're going to need to add our 37 green amplifier into that formulation. And if you add 37 green amplifier into your formula as you lift, you'll be able to lift and tone it at the same time. We'll see a model of that in a second. Now, the other thing that you can do is when you're lifting in your high levels, right? When you're in your blondes, it's not red anymore. It's like yellow and yellowy orange. So you can use your 07 in those situations in order to counteract those. Now, sometimes though, let's say you're lifting into your level 5s and 6s and 7s, and you're looking for reds and coppers. That's what your target is. So you want to be able to use that underlying pigment to your advantage. And you can also add amplifiers to it to even make that red even more vibrant or that copper pop just a little bit more. But you have to remember, amplifiers are pure tones with no base levels. You can use them to either counteract or intensify the underlying tones in the hair when you're lifting, and you can also use them to make pastels and custom colors. So you can mix these with a regular color like a 5.6, and you can make your own cherry red or sunburst copper. Whatever you'd like to make, you have the ability to be able to make it. Now, the mixing ratio is always going to be 1:1. And when we say 1:1, it's 1 part developer to 1 part color. Now remember, amplifiers are color. So let's say I wanted to add a little bit of copper to my level 6 copper. So I use 2 ounces of level 6.4, so level 6 copper, and then I add a half an ounce, let's say, of our 44 copper amplifier, because I want a really nice copper out of that. So when I do that, I mix those two things together, I have 2.5 ounces of color. So the developer I need to use is 2.5 ounces of developer. Okay? You really want to make sure you remember that. That's like a huge deal, because based on the ratios of color to developer, that's how color lifts, that's how color processes. So if your ratios aren't right, then you're actually making your developer weaker. And there's a lot of things you can do with that. When we're talking about formulations in a couple of months, you'll see how you can vary your formulas, the developer strength, based on how much color and how much color instantane you're putting in, and it allows you to do a lot of different things. Processing time, all right? Processing time is 45 minutes with no heat, okay? We recommend that you process for 45 minutes because that's how long it takes the color to actually lodge itself into the hair, and we'll see that in the next slide. Now, some salons and some stylists like to use heat, and it's perfectly all right to use heat. What you'd want to do with heat is you'd want to use 10 to 15 minutes of low to medium heat, depending on what you're trying to do, at the beginning of the processing time, but you're still going to let them process out for the rest of the 45 minutes after you take them out of the heat. Now, when would you use heat, right? If you have someone who has very difficult to cover gray hair, right, heat will help you to open the cuticle. So especially doing it at the beginning of the process for about 15 minutes on low to medium heat, it's going to help to open up that cuticle to help get the color to go in, okay? Another time you may need to use heat or may want to use heat. Let's say you're doing highlights. The heat will help to lift the color. So what you need to do is, again, 10 to 15 minutes of low to medium heat at the beginning while they're in foils, and that's going to help to lift the heat, to lift the color out. When you're using it as a decolorizer, something else that we'll learn in another class, you can also use heat. But basically, what you want to remember, if you're depositing, right, even if you're using heat to deposit, you want to make sure you process out for the whole 45 minutes. On the lifting side, it's really up to you how long you let that process. Because some people will lift faster than others. Some people, you don't want to lift them all the way to what you could actually do with the color. You may get there in 25 minutes. Open up those foil packs, take a look, and if you're where you need to be, then you can rinse it out and you're all done. Now, when the color is applied, it goes in as that little red molecule there on the left-hand side. And then after 30 minutes, it's not fully grown. That's why, one of the things that people talk about, especially new stylists when they're using the color, is, well, I want it to process in 30 minutes. I need it to process in 30 minutes. Well, and then I ask them, well, how long do you process your current color for? And they say, well, I process it in 30 minutes. And then I ask them, well, why are you looking for a new hair color? And they'll tell me, well, because it fades really fast. Well, the reason it's probably fading really fast is exactly this reason, that stylist is not letting that hair color process all the way out, right? If you follow the instructions from any manufacturer, there's a reason why they tell you to process it for a certain amount of time. And yes, there are certain colors that process in 15 or 20 minutes, but those are very loaded with those direct dye stains, and those give you a different kind of problem that you have to deal with. right? But if that's what you like, then that's what you use. Um, for Mastey, after 45 minutes, that color molecule is going to be fully grown and lodged into the hair shaft. And it's going to make it so that it lasts longer, it doesn't wash out, and it looks more vibrant. Now, earlier we were talking about the alkaline agents that we use and the color that we use, the types of dyes, and this is why it's important. At Mastey, we came up a long time ago with this thing called the Mastey Tri-Base Color System. And basically, that's a big word to say we control how much of color and um, alkaline we use based on your blondes, your reds, and your darks. And what that does is it allows you to not only know how to lift and how much you're going to lift, but it also makes sure that when you deposit and as it fades out, you have more tonal control. So you can get the control that you want for the tone, and when it fades out, it's not going to fade off tone. Um, I took 3 random colors here so you could see them next to each other. And one of the things that I want you to take a look at and pay attention to here, and this is one of the questions that your clients may ask you, right? They'll say, well, why do they say that this hair color will make the hair look healthier afterwards, right? And the simple answer to it is that over 41.5% of the solution that's in the color is water. It's not harsh chemicals. And then almost 36%, so 35.171% of the ingredients in the hair color are conditioners. So things that are meant to moisturize and repair the hair, right? And then the rest of that, on the very dark shade, we have up to 5.737% of pigment, right? And as much as, 5.737% of the alkaline agent, right? And 3.34% of pigment. So there's very, very little amount of things that will negatively affect your client. And so that's why the allergen rates that we have, the way that people react to the color are so, so low. It's very, very telling to be able to make a color from 1982 till today and be able to learn everything that we have in order to make the best solution for you, the stylist, as well as the client the hardest client, the one that has real issues. When you go into our middle shades, our reds, like our 6.46, right, you'll see that the water and the conditioner stay the same, right? And the only thing that varies is the alkaline. We need more alkaline because we're getting more lift, less pigment because we don't need to put as much pigment in because we're not depositing like at a level 1. And then when you look at our level 11, you'll see again that the water and conditioners are still very, very high. The alkaline at its highest is going to be at the 10%, and the amount of pigment that's in there is going to be 0.0610. Okay. I will try to, Crystal, keep me posted on that. It might be your connection, but hopefully it will clear up in a second. I'll try a couple of things here while we talk. Sorry about that. One of the things you want to pay attention to here, okay, when we're talking about lifting, right? If you look at that level 11, right, the 11.2, there is so little pigment in there because you're using that color to really get lift going. If you are lifting and you have, let's say, a lot of unwanted yellow undertone in there, right, you need more violet in that formulation to tone down that underlying yellow pigment. There's 2 ways you can do it. You can add the blue or the violet or a combination of the 2 amplifiers into the 11.2. Make sure you compensate how much you're putting in to how much developer you're going to be using, and that's going to help you to tone as you lift. Or you can also use something like a level 9.2. Level 9.2 is not going to have as much of the alkaline in there, so it's not going to lift you as high, but there'll be more violet in there, so that violet will tone down that yellow a lot more. So it really depends on what you're looking to do and why you want to do it. So let's look at high lifts with no bleach. One of the things you'll learn about us, and you probably already know, that we don't make a bleach. There's a lot of reasons for that. We talk about that in another class. But we're realistic. In certain situations, you have to have a bleach. And so you have to find the bleach that you feel comfortable working with and using. One day, hopefully, we'll be able to make a bleach that meets our standard, and we'll be able to put one out. It's not that difficult to make a bleach. It's difficult to make a bleach that we would put our name on. So that's the situation with that. So we recommend doing lifting with high lift color instead of bleach. But one of the things you got to be smart too. You got to understand that lifting someone who's a level 4 is a lot harder than lifting someone who's a level 8, and you're going to get different levels of lift even using the same formulation on the different people. And because of the underlying pigment, you're going to get different results depending on each client. So once you learn a couple of things that we'll talk about now, you'll be set and this won't be a problem. You just have to understand, remember, the reason why you're doing this is because you want less damage than using bleach. So the regular high lift formula would be an 11 series shade. We have 5 different ones. They all have a different tonal value on them. So depending on where you think you want that final tone to look like, you would pick one of those. 60 volume and up to 45 minutes of processing time. Again, remember, if after 30 minutes you've lifted into the space where you want to be, then you can take that off and you're set. If you want to lift and tone, let's say you've lifted this client before you know that she has a tendency to go really, really yellow, right? Then you pick an 11 series shade, you add some of that amplifier into the formula from the beginning to help tone, and then you use the 60 volume, and you have up to 45 minutes of processing time, okay? The lift is going to depend on the color history, and what that means is, and this is something that is new to some stylists when they start using, we can lift color with our color, but it depends on what color and what kind of dyes they have in that color as to how much we'll lift. It is very easy and simple to lift Mastey color with Mastey color. So if you have a client that you've been doing Mastey on in the past, and now you want to go in and put highlights in, you can use that 11.2 and 60 with your amplifier right over that. You don't have to bleach, you don't have to do anything like that, and it's going to help to lift that color out, no problem. Okay, it's pretty easy to lift Chi color, some colors, Paul Mitchell, Veda, Redken. Those are harder to lift, and it has a lot to do with the amount of stain dyes that are in there. So you really want to be able to, if it's your first time doing a service on someone, take that extra few minutes to do a strand test, put it in a foil, hit it with a blow dryer, see how that lift is going to work. And we'll talk about that when we do our high lift class in the coming months. But what you want to pay attention to is that you're going to be able to lift someone and make really, really beautiful blonde hair without having to use damaging bleach. This model was a model that we did for a class quite a few years ago. We just still use the picture because it really displays what you can do. Okay, her color formula is 11.2, 2 ounces, a quarter ounce of the '07 blue amplifier, and you got 2 1/4 ounces of 60 volume peroxide. Processing time was 15 minutes under heat, and then a 30-minute cool down for a total processing time of 45 minutes. Putting that blue amplifier in there helped to counteract that yellow undertone that she was getting, and it made her a nicer blonde highlight. Now, one of the things you want to pay attention to is depending how much blue amplifier you put in, right? That's going to affect how much lift you're going to get as well. The more blue amplifier you put in, the less lift you're going to get. The less blue amplifier you put in, the more lift you'll get, but the less tone you'll get. So all of these things work together. And as a professional and as a certified colorist, you start to know these things, and that's really what sets you apart from someone that's even, let's say, just using the color on a day-to-day basis or what have you. You're really taking the time to learn the ins and outs and the whys and making yourself a better stylist. Now, this formula here, again, same thing. The only difference that we're switching here is we're using a green amplifier instead of a blue amplifier. We're using a green because in the color that we're lifting here, the undertone that would come out as you lift is going to be red, so that green is going to neutralize it. So you've got 2 ounces of 11.2 color, a 1/4 ounce of green amplifier, and 2 1/4 ounces of 60 volume peroxide. The processing time is 15 minutes under heat, 30 minutes to cool down. In 45 minutes, you've got a really, really beautiful result. You know, when you're lifting in these levels, in these lower levels, you're looking for more of a caramel colored highlight as opposed to a platinum highlight. So instead of bleaching them up, and then having to tone them back down, you're able to do this in one step and give them a nice, beautiful caramel colored highlight in their formulation. Okay. Now you can we'll talk about this in the high lift classes, but there's formulations for using it as a decolorizer, to be able to lift off Demi-permanent off of that's been built up on people's ends from other color lines. Again, you can vary the timing and check frequently to make sure you get a desired lift, and you can always add heat to get more lift out of the formulation. Let's take a look at one of our models here. This is Christina, and Christina was a model for us last year at the Chicago Hair Show. Hopefully she'll be a model again this year. She was great, but she did come in with a couple of problems. And the interesting thing is when you do these hair shows, the model pictures that you get when you hire the model, over the internet, isn't necessarily how that person's hair looks when they show up at the salon the day before the show. And for Christina, she had very, very damaged, and she had a lot of different, tones and colors going through there. She had really, really dark roots, and we needed her. She was our healthy blonde model, and so we needed to make miracles happen very quickly. And we have a real talented group of show stylists that are not only amazing at the shows, but great to talk to on the phone, and and really, really good people. And they were able to really take Christina, and the solution that they came up for her was using a heavy highlight with 3 different formulas. And again, we'll go through these quick. Don't worry, you'll be able to download these slides, so you'll be able to see it. But basically, they were doing 3 formulas: a level 8 beige, a 10 platinum, and an 11 platinum. With you've got your amplifiers mixed in there to kind of tone and correct while you're in there. The application time and the prep time was a very long time. And when it comes to your clients, when they come in and that they want you to make miracles happen for them, 1, you have to know how to do it, and 2, you have to be honest with them that yes, we can do it, but it's going to take some time because we need to fix what's wrong. The color processing time was 45 minutes. but it took a very, very long time not only to prep her with conditioners and things beforehand, but also to put all those highlights in. And then we had a toner application at the end of a level 9 platinum. And Christina went from the picture you see on the left to her picture there at the show. You can see some of the ways that they styled her out at the show. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. And some of these formulas, you can copy them off of there. You can talk to the stylist that did them and get a real interesting perspective on what was going on. Now, let's talk about gray coverage, right? And we have a whole 2-hour series on gray coverage, so we'll just go by this really quickly. But the really important thing when we talk about gray coverage is, one, not only do we want it to cover the gray, but we also want the hair to feel different. We want the texture to be different, right? When you look at gray hair, there's a different texture to it. The cuticle feels different. It feels just rougher, and we want the hair to look nice and shiny and soft and healthy. And so we have to formulate for those things. So a simple gray coverage formula is very easy. You use one of our 00 shades with 20 volume. Example, the 500 with 20 volume, right? You can do a 00 with multiple tones in it to give it more tonal value, to not make it look so neutral, right? And that's using a 00 shade, a secondary tone, and 20 volume. In these situations, again, remember violet-based color. So when you're using that 00, remember that, yes, it's neutral, but it's still going to have a little bit of violet in there. So if you're going to add a tone to it, you want to make sure that you add one that's going to help make it more the color that you want it to be, okay? So that was this person's formulation. And as you can see there, you can see how shiny, how soft that hair is, okay? Very easy coverage for that. It's a 500, which is our 5 double neutral, and a 4.34, which is our 4 chocolate, and a 20 volume developer. And adding the 4 chocolate to it not only gave it the tonal value, the secondary tone that we wanted, but since it's a level lower than the 500, it also gave it more depth, because we were trying to cover very, very gray hair, very hard to cover gray hair. The 6 P's to perfect hair color. When we talk to students and stylists starting out, we tell them that these things right here are the difference between being a stylist that your customer loves and one that your customer's just stuck with you until they find someone else, right? You have to take the time to do things properly, right? And by doing those things properly, your result is going to be better than the next person. And this speaks to your professionalism as well, right? You have to be willing to take the time to do the process you know is right. And certain customers are going to need certain things. Other customers, because they listen to you and they use the right products at home, or they do what they're supposed to do when they style their hair, you're going to do different processes. But the 6 P's are proper preparation, proper formulation, proper application, proper saturation, the proper timing, and the proper rinsing. And if you can follow these 6 P's, you are guaranteed to have really happy customers. Now, when we talk about preparation, it's really cleaning the hair, right? We want to make sure that the hair is clean, like a clean canvas for the hair color to go through. If ever you have a problem with coverage or with the, not being able to get the result that you want, when you talk to one of our educators, the first thing they're going to ask you is, how did you prepare the hair, right? Did you know that it was clean? Did you use Me First? Was it a brand new client? Was the hair really dirty? those kinds of factors, when you're using a gentler product like Mastey Hair Color, do play a factor, right? When you use Me First before the service, you're really just going to take them back to the bowl. You're going to wet the hair down. You're going to shampoo the hair with the Use Me First, and you're going to see the product lather like it does in the picture. If it doesn't lather like it does in the picture, then that means that that hair is extremely dirty. You're going to have to wash it through and then do it one more time. You'll see on the second shampoo, you'll see it lather this way. Is every single client going to need that? No. But some clients, and you know who they are, come in and it's very, very difficult to get the best result when you're working on a dirty canvas. Okay? Again, let them know today in your service, we're going to take an extra 5 minutes because we're going to go and we're going to get your hair prepared so that you can take this service in the way that you need to. Use Me First is a color safe hair purifier. It doesn't have solvents in there. It doesn't strip color. It's not doing anything except taking the mineral buildup, hairspray, any kind of product buildup. It'll take all of that off. And as I said, it's color safe and it's not going to dry out the hair. You live in areas where you have well water and things like that. Like I know we have a few people on from Michigan and the Indiana area, with all the stuff that's in the well water. And, sometimes you don't have to do a Malibu before you're going to do something with the hair color. You can use the Use Me First. It's going to be a lot gentler and it's going to get off the minerals that you need. Now, Use Me First, you can also recommend it to them to use once a week to get those minerals out at home if they have a lot of well water at home, or if they're swimming in the pool or in the lake. Use Me First is something that they can use at home. Now, another thing that we recommend that you do for people, let's say you have really bleached blonde that you're going to dye them back, or you have a bleached blonde that you're doing a retouch on her new growth with highlights. What you want to do is you want to repair that hair before the service, right? Repair the hair, and that's going to make the hair color last longer. As I said, we have a lot of conditioners in the hair color, so a lot of that repairing is going to happen when you do the hair color. But in certain situations, for those people with really damaged hair, you're going to use the Mastey Color Protection Mask before the service. That is a combination of moisturizers and rice amino acids. So you're going to get in one treatment, you're going to get what traditionally we used to have you do with, let's say, our Moisture, which was our deep moisturizer, and our Super Pack, which was our deep conditioner. And for those of you that still use the Super Pack and the Moisture, we do the same thing. You can use both those products together and go ahead and do a conditioning process on them before the hair color. So clean their hair out with Use Me First, repair it with the Mastey Color Protection Mask, and that's going to get the hair in its best state. Now, can you apply the hair color on wet hair? Yes. In certain situations, it's actually going to be better for you. What you want to do is make sure that you towel dry the hair. Towel drying the hair is, you don't want the hair soaking wet. However, you do want the hair to be towel dried and still have some slick in it. For certain, services that you're doing, like if you're doing something like balayage, it's going to be easier to spread the color and to blend it when the hair isn't as dry. Some stylists do like to dry the hair before the color process. You don't necessarily have to, but if you wanted to, you could do that as well. Picking the right shade, make sure that you're looking at those tonal values and those levels, and you're remembering that you're shooting for virgin hair color. Now, if this client is the first time you're doing them with the Mastey Hair Color, or it's a new client that's that comes in and knows their formula from the old Stylist with the other hair color line, the first thing you want to do is someone comes in and says, hey, my stylist used to use a Redken level 6 on me, right? You're immediately going to know, that because of the dyes that are in the other color line, you're going to want to go one shade darker with the Mastey. So you're going to go with the Mastey level 5, and then you're going to try and find the tonal value that matches what you're going after. And that's it. For someone that's just coming in, or someone that's new, or someone that you've been using Mastey on for a long time, it's the same situation as using any other hair color line. You match it up and figure out what you want to do. Now, choosing the right developer when you're doing gray coverage, right? We recommend that everybody start off using 20 volume as their go-to developer for gray coverage. Now, you can mix developers, like half 10, half 20 to make a 15, or half 20, half 30 to make a 25. But when would you use those, right? Very simply put, the developer is going to help the color to, when it reacts, not only is it going to help to grow the color molecule, but it's going to help to open up that cuticle to get the product into the hair. So if you have, for most of your clients, like I said, it's going to be 20 volume. But if you have really coarse hair or really, really compact cuticle, when we were in Hawaii, they worked on a lot of models that had, either Asian hair, Japanese hair, or Samoan or Hawaiian hair, and it was very hard to get into that cuticle. And so the Hawaiian stylists, they taught us that they don't use 20 volume there. They use 25 and 30 volume. And what they do is they drop down one more shade in the color, because they know they're going to get a little bit of lift by using a little higher developer. But by doing that, by going up in developer and dropping in the shade, they're able to get perfect 100% coverage and with no problem. In the Midwest, a lot of people use 10 or 15 volume developer when they're doing the gray coverage. And a lot of that has to do, again, with how fine the hair is, maybe, or that it's not very compact of a cuticle. The 10 and the 15 is strong enough to work in those situations. One of the things that when you do a hands-on class, one of the things that our stylists always, our educators, they will always push is thin, clean sections. We're talking paper thin, almost so that you can see through them. Don't worry, you're not going to use more product. You're basically just making sure that the hair color gets where it needs to get. After a while, you just get into the habit of using the thin sections. And after the first few times that you do it, you'll see what a difference it makes. Proper saturation, okay? You want to use enough product, and you want to use a little bit of a firmer hand when working on the roots. We say apply with a bristling or a cross-hatching motion, right? To make sure that you're roughing up that cuticle a little bit and leaving the product on there. What you don't want to do is put product on and then wipe it off. You want to make sure that it's properly saturated and that it has the proper time to process. Okay? You let it process for 45 minutes, okay? Remember, those 45 minutes are important, as we learned earlier. And then every single time that you do someone with Mastey hair color, their hair should look shiny, healthy, soft. It should look really, really beautiful, and a lot healthier than it did right before you did the service. If for any reason, let's say you wash the color out and you take her back or you have an assistant wash the color out, you take her back to the chair and you go to blow dry and style her hair, and for any reason it feels soft it feels rough or it looks dull, that's because the hair color hasn't been washed out completely. So you need to get them back to the bowl and rewash that hair. The proper way to wash out the hair color, and again, remember, we're using MEA, not ammonia. We're using a soy-based solution that encapsulates all the fumes. So we got to be able to wash all that out. So in order to do that, the way that you wash it out is very simple. Warm water, gotta be warm. You put warm water into the hair at the bowl, and then you scrub the color. You emulsify it. And once you've emulsified it, you'll see it'll start to bubble up a little bit, and you can when you're washing, you can pull it down off of the scalp and into the ends, right? Because at the same time, you're also detangling that hair. Sometimes for new stylists or for assistants, you'll see that they scrub the hair and they really knot up the hair while they're washing it. And no one has taught them yet that it's a perfect opportunity when you're washing that hair color out and washing the hair with shampoo and conditioning it to actually pull that hair from scalp to roots, and that's going to help pull product out as well as detangle it. Now, when we go into formulations, again, we'll learn a lot more about Color Instantani, but Color Instantani is basically a color additive that comes in all the same shades as the Mastey Hair Color, and we use it in a particular way so that you could turn your permanent color into semi-permanents, demi-permanents, toners, and all anything that you can think of, color glosses and glazes. You can make absolutely everything just using Mastey Hair Color and Mastey Color Instantani. And we'll go through just very quickly those different things and how it works. Color Instantani is a different kind of a dye. It's an acid-based dye, so the polarity on it is opposite of the oxidative dye. And what that basically means is that it's like a magnet. The Color Instantani color molecules are going to stick like a magnet to the Mastey Hair Color molecules, or to any other oxidative color. So Color Instantani is something you can use with anything. You can use it with Goldwell, you can use it with Redken, whatever permanent color you're using, you can use Color Instantani with in order to add more pigment. With each line, it's going to be a little different as to how many things you can do, right? When you use it with the Mastey Hair Color, you're going to be able to do so much. But think about it this way. If, like, I don't have any hair color in my hair right now, if I put a whole bottle of Color Instantani in my head and let it process for 45 minutes, and then I went to the shower, it would all wash out because there's nothing for that Color Instantani to stick to, okay? If I had hair color on my hair, and I put the Color Instantani on top of it, those Color Instantani molecules would be attracted to those oxidative dyes and they would stick together. Why would you use this, right? You can use it when you want to add more pigments to your color. If you want to thin out your formulas, sometimes like when doing balayage, you may want that formula, or when working with extensions, a lot of people, they get extensions and then they want to dye down the extensions to match their natural hair or what have you. Using your permanent color formula with Color Instantani in it will help to change the consistency of it, so it'll make it a lot easier to pull through things like that. Again, it's available in 94 shades. It's going to give you really, really gentle and vibrant results, and it's a lot healthier for the hair than doing shampoo caps or doing pull-throughs if you're trying to refresh color. Again, it's a completely different kind of dye, so it's not a stain dye, so it's not progressive like let's say something like a shades would be, right? So it's not going to darken the ends or darken your hair color at all. It really is just going to add more tone, more tonal value, and help you to do more things. The easiest way to use it is to refresh the, let's say, faded ends. Go ahead and apply your root application, whatever color you have left in the bowl. You can go ahead and add Color Instantani in the same amount, in the same shades to that, and remix it, and you're going to pull it through in the last 15 minutes. It's going to help to refresh that color. You'll learn this in the formulations class, but there's ways to create double pigment formulas. And just for a quick example, if let's say I was normally using 2 ounces of 5 chocolate, 5.34, and 2 ounces of 20 volume on one of my clients, but I noticed that I needed, a lot more pigment in there uh, to help give it more tonal value or to cover more of the gray or what have you. What I could do is I could use 2 ounces of a 5 chocolate, 1 ounce of a 40 volume, and 1 ounce of the 5.34 color instantane. And, when you look at that, you might say, well, why am I using 40 volume? Um, but I'm really not, because that formula on the right hand side and that formula on the left hand side are exactly the same. I'm taking that 1 ounce of 5.34 instantane, mixing it with that 1 ounce of 40 volume developer, and I'm making that 2 ounces of a 20 volume developer that already has 5 chocolate pigment in it. And then I'm taking that and I'm combining it with my 2 ounces of 5 chocolate Mastey-permanent hair color. Might be a little confusing now, but when we get to formulas, you guys will definitely get the hang of it all. There's a way to make a demi-permanent formula using an ounce of Mastey Color, 2 ounces of instantane, and an ounce of 20 volume. You can use this if you're currently using, some sort of progressive demi-permanent formula. You can actually make, and this is what the cool thing is like most semi-permanents and demi-permanents come in very limited shades, between 14 and 36 shades. With Mastey and making your own demis and semis, you can actually make unlimited amounts. Whatever color that you formulate for your client, you're not stuck to 36 shades in the demi. You can actually make a matching demi-permanent. You can also make toners, and we have a really cool sheet. We talked about Ginny earlier today. She's our stylist educator out of Cape Cod here in the U.S. And her and her salon there, they came up with, while we were working through that whole year on how to do these different things that they were trying to do, they came up with this cool, simple, easy little chart. And basically, the first column shows you the process. The next one tells you how much hair color to use. The next one shows you how much instantane to use, then what developer to use, and then how long it's supposed to take. And if you can download this from masteyhaircolor.com, we'll send you a link to it later today or tomorrow morning. You can put this up in your color back room, and everybody knows how to make absolutely everything. One-step tintbacks are another thing that we'll learn about. It's basically instead of doing a filler and then going in and coloring the hair, we're formulating all that together all at once, and we have we have nice formulations already for you that you can use as templates to get to your target level. The basics behind this is that you're actually making a formula that has blue, red, and yellow. So you're making a brown to try and fill that blonde, that bleach blonde hair that you're trying to tone back down. You're making a brown and then adding a target color to it. In this case, a 4 chocolate. So you'll always be able to customize these, and you'll see these in one of the next ones that we pull up. And we'll learn a lot more about this in the formulations class as well. Now, this is Brooke, and Brooke was another model for us in Chicago, and another great model for us. She was awesome to work with, but her picture that we saw before the show didn't match anything to how she showed up at the salon that day. And in her picture, she was a very, very rich brunette, with a lot of richness in the hair. And, she went to a stylist, and the stylist did this to her. And as you can tell, it had to grow out a lot, quite a lot. It had grown out quite a lot. There was a lot of situations going on there. There's other pictures that we'll show during the color correction class where you see a lot of the details to this, but she had severe damage from the bleach that the other stylists had used. Um, we needed her to be a rich chocolate for the collection that we were showing off at the show. And so our team, again, really smart, really know what the outcome is that they're going for and how to get there. They were able to fix her hair with just one formula. And when you see it, when you see the result, you'll see a lot of different beautiful, natural looking tones in the hair. Uh, and what they did was they knew what was going on with the existing, and they used that to our advantage to be able to have certain parts of the hair that looked a, a little bit of a different tone than other parts of the hair and what have you. And they did this based on the formula and how they applied it. And so we'll learn more about that in a future class as well. But if you just look at this, you've got, this is a modified tint back. So you've got your blue because you're using your 0.0. You've got your red because you're using your 0.6. And you actually have your gold in your 4.34. But they wanted more of the copper tone in there. So instead of using, let's say, 1 ounce of 4.3 and 1 ounce of 4.34, they used 2 ounces of 4.34, knowing that the gold was in there. So that's going to give them their brown and more of a chocolate tone. And they used, so 4 ounces of color, 4 ounces of developer. Again, application and prep time took a long time because we had to rebuild that hair. We had to do a lot of work, and that's the thing. When Brooke comes in to see you, right, in your salon and has this situation, not only do you have to be honest with her about what can be accomplished and what can't, you also have to let her know that this is going to be a long time, and so that's why it's going to cost this much. Processing time is going to be 45 minutes on the processing, and we went from what's on the left to what's on the right. And as you can see in some of these other pictures, her hair looks completely like night and day. Gary had a quick question on the 60 volume developer on the high lift blonde model that we had. And yes, we did 60 volume with the 11.2 in heavy foils. There was also the 9.2, I think, in there with 60 volume, and that was on scalp as well. And you have to, again, it comes to your professionalism, right? Depending on the client, depending on the condition of the hair, you have to know when you're able to use, let's say, a 60 volume with an 11.2 on someone, or maybe you want to use an 11.2 with a 40 volume on someone who has, extremely damaged hair, and you're afraid that you're going to overlap. You have to really pay attention to those things, and sometimes you have to take the time. Again, remember, you're a professional, and that's why they're coming to you. So you have to look and you have to say, okay, I'm going to take this extra 15 minutes at the beginning of the service, and I'm going to strand test your hair in one foil just so I can see what is going to happen. Because I'll be 100% honest with you. 15 minutes at the beginning on a foil and a strand test is a lot better than having to do someone's hair all over again when you fully process, and what comes out isn't what you were thinking was going to come out, because they didn't tell you they had a keratin treatment, or they didn't tell you that they had box color with metallic salt dyes on it, or that their sister did their hair and they didn't even know what they were doing. They just used some stuff from the drugstore. You have to, you're going to put yourself in these situations. So you really have to make sure you know what you're doing. So again, here's Brooke's formula. We'll go through Morgan real quick. Again, model in Chicago, extremely damaged hair. We needed her to be a redhead. And what the what the stylist decided to do was do it in two formulations. And these two formulations not only did the base and the highlights, but fixed that that really um, the damage that was going on with the ombre that she had there. Uh, prep time, long time again. You want to make sure that that the hair looks healthy. But this is what you end up with. Really beautiful, vibrant red hair. You can see the tone. Our stylists are very smart to know what's underneath and how to be able to use it. And we called Morgan the Little Mermaid. She actually went on to get a job over at Disney World as the Little Mermaid, I think. So that's kind of a really cool thing. A lot of the girls that we work with at a lot of these trade shows, um, that sometimes they go to trade shows and their hair gets really messed up from it. And so we always look at it as it's a way for us to be able to fix it. If you ever visit us at a show, you'll see we're not the ones that put squares in people's hair or are making crazy colors. We're really trying to fix whatever damage has been done beforehand and showcase how beautiful, natural looking hair can be. So we're almost finished here. We've got just a few more minutes. But we wanted to take a second to talk about professionalism in yourself, in your work, and in your business. A lot of times, uh, when you look at a salon or a stylist, right? And they say, well, I'm having trouble building my business out, or I'm having trouble, getting more customers, or my business is failing. I don't know why stylists don't want to come work with me or work in my salon or work in our environment. And you know, you you have to ask yourself some hard but simple questions, right? So if your hair doesn't look good, why would anyone want you to do their hair? And a lot of times that's hard to ask yourself, but it would be it would be like me asking myself, if I didn't know my product, why would I want anyone to use my product? Or how could I expect anyone to use my product if I didn't even know how to use it, right? So you have to ask yourself these questions, and you have to look at your salon environment, right? And if it's a place where it's a nice place for clients to go, when they go there, they feel relaxed, they feel taken care of, they feel like they're experiencing uh, a nice, beautiful, not not only uh, not only are you making them feel beautiful by what you're doing with their hair, but you're also giving them a nice environment, a gentle environment for them to be in. Those are the clients that are going to not only continue to be your clients, but they're your clients that are going to show you off and bring you more clients. If you walk into your salon and everybody's arguing, all the stylists are mad at each other, you got one stylist that uses one color over here and it stinks up the whole room. You got another client over here or another stylist on the other side of you, and she's, nobody else wants to do these things where you're doing these permanent straighteners where you got to put a gas mask on, but she wants to do it, and so she's got that going on. When your client comes into that space, it's very difficult to be able to give them the nice environment that they deserve and that you deserve. So try and make your salon what you really want it to be. And, you know, don't take shortcuts with your results. Some of these things are very, very simple. 15 minutes beforehand to do a strand test. You know, uh, somebody comes in and says, I'm highly allergic to color. Take that time to do a patch test, right? Because you don't know what they're allergic to, right? They don't know what they're allergic to. Some of the people, um, some of the people will say, I have an allergy to hair color, but they've never been to the doctor. The only one that's told them that they have an allergy to hair color was the hairdresser who had done their hair before, right? So you need to figure out what's going on for your environment and for what you're doing, right? So don't take shortcuts. If a result is worth getting, right, it's going to take time and it's going to take hard work to achieve it. You saw all those models that we had for those trade shows. That was a lot of hard work. Our show staff works extremely hard. And in the end, they do it because they are so proud of that result. They don't take shortcuts, and sometimes if a model comes in and her hair's a hot mess and we don't know what's on there, they'll take the extra 30 minutes that they need to do to test different strands of hair to see what the formulas are going to do. Because at the end of the day, in a typical salon environment, what you don't want is you don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours with it. You don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours with a client and then have them not come out the way that you want them to come out and then have to go do the service over. Pamela has a question about doing the strand test. So a lot of times when we talk about doing strand tests, it's about how color is going to lift. Okay, so when you're using your high lift formulas and someone comes in and you're going to put highlights in, or you're going to do some sort of service where you're going to lift them out, but they've had color on before. You may not know what it is. You may know, but you don't know how it's going to lift out. Taking a few strands, putting them in some foils with a couple of formulas that you think will do what you need them to do, especially if you're doing, like, say, multi-dimensional lifting in there. You can have 3 formulas and 3 foils. Hit those 3 foils with heat, and after 15 minutes, you can see where they've lifted out to. If you like the way that that's lifting, then you're pretty safe to say, okay, it's going to get to where it's going to get. But if you open up that foil after 15 minutes and there's a couple of sections on there that just won't lift and it looks like tiger stripes, then after just 15 minutes, that's not going to work. So let's talk to our client about what will work. I hope that makes sense, Pamela. Let me know. Make time for yourself and your business. That's a huge, huge thing. A lot of times, stylists will not make time for learning new things or for trying to perfect things. And I know we all get busy, but at the end of the day, if we make that little bit of extra time somehow, somewhere, it'll actually benefit our businesses a lot more in the future. When we talk about integrity, we talk about being true to your integrity. So, it's what we talked about at the beginning. Figure out what you believe in and what you stand for, what your salon stands for, what you're trying to do, right? And then you can ask yourself those questions when you're asked to do certain things. So if you are really wanting to be a quote unquote eco-friendly type salon, or, a salon that has organic on their awning, you're a quote unquote organic salon. And I get it. I understand. Buzzwords, that's what the consumers are looking at. That's what they want. And that's fine. But you have to be able to explain the reality of it when they come in. Thank you, Helena. And what you have to do is you have to know what it is that you're talking about, because people are going to ask you, is this, is this, that, right? Make smart choices and be honest with yourself and with others. I was at the Long Beach show this weekend. We went down on Saturday, see some friends that we see at all the shows and kind of see what was going on. And there was a new product line that was there. It was a straightening product. I won't say the brand because the brand's not really important, but, there's all this, negative press out there and things about straighteners and things like that, right? And so, there's certain questions that people always ask. And there was people asking those questions in the audience. And the the owners of that company were answering them kind of in a roundabout way, and I didn't really understand it. And so I just asked a simple question because they have a prep product that you do before you do the straightener, and then a shampoo that you use afterwards. And we asked just a simple question: and is the shampoo sulfate free, right? And the salesperson came back with, of course, it's sulfate free. Not only is it sulfate free, but it's organic and it's all natural. Um, and and I was like, okay. So then I grabbed the bottle, and the second ingredient in the shampoo is sodium lauryl sulfate. And as I went down all the ingredients, they're all chemicals. But she's telling me that all of them are organic, all of them are not only healthy, but they're sulfate free and there's no chemicals in it. It's all natural. Um, you know, and that's someone that is either really trying to sell something or doesn't know what they're doing, and they've stopped learning. And that's one of the things that you want to do, and hopefully this program will help you to get on that track. Never stop learning. Uh, One of the educators we have who's out in the Michigan area is a salon owner who has over 40 years of experience, and she's a phenomenal lady, and she knows so much. But every year that we see her, she's learned more and more and more about not only hair, but her business, what she can do, how she can grow. She builds her staff at her salon with with a friend who's been around just as long as she has, and then the rest of the girls are young girls that they train. They train up to get them to really know what being a hairdresser is all about. But because her staff is young, and because of her want to know all these things, she's always learning. And last year she actually was up on the stage working for the first time, working at a trade show, also working at a booth at a trade show. And she's always learning, and that's what you want to be. You always want to be learning, because you want to remember that you're responsible not only for what you promise your client, but for what ingredients you expose yourself and them to. And you don't want to be that lady in the booth at the Long Beach show that says everything's organic and everything's natural and there's nothing wrong with anything. Because then you're nothing but a snake oil salesman. And that's not what you are, because the fact that you're willing to take the time on a Monday, your day off, to sit here with me for 2 hours to learn about what you're doing and to get to the next level shows that you are a professional. And all these things are important because these are real people that we interact with. All of you are mothers and fathers, and you all have friends, and your clients are, young kids getting their hair done for the first time, or the grandmother that's getting their hair done with you, getting it blown and set every week for the last 20 years. These are real people, and we affect their lives in a real way. And when we start to actually think about that, I think it helps us to really get our professionalism to the next level. So thanks again. We have come to the end. This is the certification course. So, this course isn't one of those things where, like, oh, you take the class, you get a certificate, and, we need to make sure that people who are Mastey certified salons and stylists actually know what it is that they're talking about. And that's why we put a lot of work into these presentations and in trying to teach this. So, there is homework associated with it. There is projects associated with it. You guys will get an email probably tomorrow with a link to this, not only the documents for this presentation, but also a copy of the recorded video so that you can take a look and review. We'd also like for you to review things at masteyhaircolor.com. You'll get that link in there as well. And take a look. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of things that you can learn, and it'll get you ready for the next step. I think most people have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page. Uh, if you do already, then really your part of this assignment is going to be a little different. If you don't, it's really important that you get one because you really, really want to start promoting yourself and what you're doing, because that's what makes you special. It takes a lot to take these classes and to go through and to finish them up. Not every stylist is like that. And so you have to go out there and show who you are. Okay. And then if you could friend me, that would be great. Eric@mastey.com is the email address you can search for on Facebook. If we're already friends, that's awesome. If not, it's a good way, for when we put stuff up, I share it with everybody so you guys will see it. And then you also please like the facebook.com/tincture. That's the Mastey Facebook page. That way you can see not only when the rest of the classes are up, but as we put stuff up from shows or what have you, that'll be on there. You will receive an email link to a quiz. It's a 100-question quiz on this section. The answers to the quiz will come from this video as well as from some of the stuff on masteyhaircolor.com. You want to complete that quiz before we move on to the next module. So we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. All these things build on top of each other. So the next class, you'll learn a lot more about a specific topic, all working you up to your final project. And then there is a small little project for this module here. Very simple. You can use one of your existing clients, or if you want to do your sister, or if you really want to do, someone, put yourself into a situation like what we put ourselves into when we do trade show models. Find yourself a model that's willing to have that's willing to have you do her hair. Pick a technique that you think would look great on this model. From what you've learned from us now, or a technique that that you haven't done with our color yet. Email us what colors you're going to need, and we'll make sure that we provide that and a styling kit for you so that you can style them out. And then we ask that you take pictures or video on your phone that will allow you to kind of document the process. So make sure you write down your formulas, make sure you write down what you were going for. We're really trying to, when you see this at the end, all of these projects that come after each one of these sections and all of these quizzes really are to help build your kind of a portfolio of your journey from where you are today to where you'll be in 6 months, right? Because at the end of 6 months, you will be at a very different place than you are today, not only in your color knowledge, but in everything else that's going on. And once you finish the program, you have the opportunity to take part in the Mastey Educator Bootcamp. It's a 3 or 4 day educator boot camp that we do in California. You do have to fly yourself out, but we provide special arrangements. So there's like a special price for you guys at a hotel that's near there, and then we have 3 days of planned events where we show you not only more things but also how to teach these classes and share your knowledge with other people. Our education process is very different than a lot of manufacturers out there. There's a lot of detail, and we want to make sure that you go out there really, really knowing what you're doing and what you're talking about. Thank you again for joining us, and you'll receive an email with all the links later today or tomorrow. And if you have any questions, please put it in on the side. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys at module number 2. So let's get all our homework and quizzes and projects done. And once again, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please type them in. I'll be on mute, but I'll be here for a few more minutes. Thanks very much.